Hey, everybody. We are here with Paul Syrstad today. He is the director of a new series called Testament on Angel Studios. Paul, is there going to be another season? Because I really, really, really liked Testament.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And the aim is for a multi-season show. So we're planning around 6 seasons. I think that's the idea. So yeah, we're in talks at the minute about the second season. Can't confirm or deny anything just yet, but
Mhm.
but hopefully news is coming very very soon.
Yay! Yeah, no, this was probably one of my favorite things that I've watched this year.
Nice.
I've always kind of had idea in my head of like, ooh, the Bible is set in like a dystopian futuristic universe. So this hit right in my uh idea of what a show about the Bible should be.
Yeah. I think it's a natural thought process for any follower of Jesus to have this almost to kind of go because we're always talking about the early church, we're always looking at the early church, we're always talking about the heroes of the faith and what they went through, and we just naturally we compare it to our own lives, we compare it to what we're doing and how we follow, and so yeah, I think it's a very natural thing for us to go, huh, what would it have been like today? So we just took it a step further and made a TV show.
And this was originally a movie, the Parables Retold, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we started out this whole thing by making by really making a load of short
Short
films.
films.
Yeah, and that's because we're a new company. We don't really have any resources or anything, so you can't make something big. So started making short films. Halfway through making, I think the series we always planned to do five. Realized nobody really watches short films. If we're honest, we'd like to pretend we do, but we don't. So we thought, okay, well, is there any way that I can tie this together into a feature film that doesn't waste what we've already done? And so, yeah, that's where this kind of initial idea came with. A background of the Book of Acts was the thread, and then presenting these
Mhm.
parables. Um, and that was our first movie. We seemed to make quite a bit of noise with it, and we got a distributor on board with that, and they happen to be Angel Studios, and they're the ones talking with them. We chatted about moving forward into making a series.
So is Parables Retold canon with the Testament series?
No, it is
No.
not.
Okay.
So that's we've actually split the name up now. So because the film originally was called Testament: The Parables Retold, but we've
I
actually
saw that.
split it because Kenneth, who's one of the writers and also plays
Yes.
John, the Beloved, the Apostle, he also
Yep.
plays John Mark in the movie. So
Yeah, I saw that too.
just split it right away. So no, not canon. It'll be interesting when
Alright.
we get to Acts 23 in the series because it's like, oh, what should we do again? But yeah,
Yeah.
not canon.
So what was your favorite thing to film in the series?
To film.
And that could be because, like, it was just a fun thing to do, or maybe it was, like, the most satisfying once it was finished?
Oh, oof, there's a lot really. I think there's one just because it was is the whole journey of it. So as I mentioned, so Kenneth's one of the writers. Faith is another writer, and then myself. And when it got to episode 7, that's the one that we all wrote on together. And for that, we actually went abroad. We went to Spain and spent some time just soaked in prayer, tears, and long walks, writing this episode. And it was a really cathartic thing for us to do. And so when we eventually filmed this climax, this scene that happens in episode 7, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't watched it, but
Yeah.
um, I think that there was an achievement that was done by an actor, and everyone, we had almost 100 people in the room, just give him an ovation, like an applaud because of what he'd just done. um and we filmed it in such a strange way. We filmed it more like theater. We had 3 cameras going, and did the whole thing as one rather than chopping it up. So to let the actor really go through it.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was probably one of my favorite moments, because it was just it's the whole journey going. This is where we're heading. We know we're pointing to this. The writing process of it was so gorgeous, and then getting to see it actually happen on screen and on set was yeah, it was just beautiful. It's yeah, a moment hard to forget for sure.
Yeah, episode 7, I remember that one. I was not well
No.
when I was done watching it, just ugly tears.
Yeah, ugly.
Oh.
You should have seen us writing it. My goodness. I tell you right now, Emily, we were all writing like different threads, and we came in, and Faith is there at the laptop, bawling her eyes out, ugly crying, and we're like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm just writing this line." I'm like, okay. It was yeah, it was. I don't think I think I only read that script once out loud with people by the end without crying, because every time I actually had to stop, and yeah, I wasn't I wasn't even able to read it out loud.
One of the things I appreciate you do in the series is that, um so obviously it's set in this more modern, futuristic,
Yeah,
setting, but this is real. This is
yeah,
what actually happened, that, like, obviously, you guys take creative liberties. I know you've talked in previous interviews about you're filling in the gaps between what actually happens
yeah.
in the Book of Acts, and then, like, just piecing together those relationships. But yeah, there were just like so many things where like you just pause and you're like, Stephen was a real person.
Yeah.
He was the first martyr. This actually happened. And it adds a level of emotion. You can't get that in anywhere else. You can only get that in stories that are based on a true story.
And I think it's simple. We know so little about Stephen from
Mhm.
Scripture. He gets introduced when he's voted in as one of the deacons. So we know hardly anything. One thing I know for absolute certainty is at one point in his life he had a mother. Um, I just that I'll bet on. Um,
It's a good bet.
yeah, yeah, pretty good. And so at some point, his mother might have been involved, and it's rooting these things that could have been that are plausible, that might have been, to help us get, when we're doing a TV show. One, it's important to remember this is not, the TV show is not the Bible. It's not Scripture. You got the Bible for that, and that's the better version always. Um, but for us, if we know Stephen's going to be a martyr, we know we need to get there in a way that's going to really make us feel what the early church might have felt at that point. As well, the same for Saul of Tarsus. The first time he's introduced is at Stephen's martyrdom. But if that's the
Mhm.
first time he appears on our TV show, it's like, who's this? And we don't have
Yeah.
a connection. So imagine circumstances. What we're always trying to do is imagine something so that when we reach that scriptural moment, it has more of an impact that I might imagine might be more close to what people might have felt like at the time. If that makes any sense at all. That was a very convoluted way of saying it, but yeah.
Absolutely. It makes sense because you're filling in the gaps in our knowledge with your creative license.
Yeah.
And you're creating these characters that we are invested in by the time they make their first appearance in the Bible.
Philip's another good
Um,
example, because Philip's got his whole journey in Samaria
mhm.
coming up, and so you want to introduce him, as someone who's there, and someone who hasn't gone out for himself, and then eventually goes, yeah, I think it's my turn now, and he's always carrying Stephen's torch. It's a nice thing, and based on the as well, to make sure we do keep to scripture, and have the ability to, we made changes to. You mentioned it as a dystopian world. We like to avoid the word dystopian, because that feels like the world's broken down. We've used the word
Mhm.
alternate, like it's an alternate modern day. And the main difference being there's no digital revolution, right? There
Yeah.
are no phones, there's no emails, there's no internet. And that's really because I don't think you can tell the same story, being faithful to scripture, because otherwise you can call up Peter and be like, they're on their way, run. And Paul is a spammer. He's the person who's WhatsApping you. You know those WhatsApp messages you get forwarded many times, and it's always that long prayer that you don't read. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're the problem. He becomes one of those people, and like, that's not quite. That's not. You need the analog world to be able to have the same danger. So that's why the world is a little bit different to the actual modern world that we see today. Is really to stay as faithful as we can to the scriptural events.
I appreciate this distinction between dystopian and alternate because you're right. There is a dystopian world is broken down, and I think you guys did right by it, making it a more analog world
Yeah.
than technological. What was the greatest challenge in creating this series?
I think it's funny. I was with some filmmakers last week who've got a series coming out themselves, and it's so nice when you talk to filmmakers and you get to say what you did on the budget that you had and on the time scale you had, because we shot in, I think that it counts up to at least 48 locations. We have over 100 speaking roles, 50 of them are main characters. You've got 3,000 extras, and all in London, trying to be warm. For our budget, which was, it's like 2% of a Star Wars series, or like half of the first season of The Chosen, for example. Like it's so minuscule, and I think when I said it to the filmmakers, they were like, "Oh my goodness, you what?" Like, because they understand the complexity of that. I think when you share it with anyone else, they're like, "Okay, yeah, sure." But the magnitude and scope of the Book of Acts, and the Book of Acts is annoying because it starts off enormous and it actually gets smaller, from a filmmaker's point of view. So I think one of the hardest things was actually capturing as much scope as we possibly could, within our limitations.
Within the budget constraints.
Yeah, and also, we're fairly new at this. I'm 33. We're quite young. Not massively, huge. We haven't got like an array of films under our belt, so it's a lot of it's new to us. And what's great is it comes with. I love listening to Peter Jackson and the making of The Lord of the Rings, because they talk about how naivety was their greatest strength. And I think that was for us as well, because we were like, yeah, we can do it with that. And yes, we did do it for that, but my goodness, I don't think we can do it again. Because it's just, yeah, you kind of go, right, well, I don't know how that's possible. Let's do it this way. And you come up with innovative ideas, which is fun. But yeah, I think the magnitude of it with what we had was probably the biggest challenge. I know that's probably too big an overarching answer, but it's just the truth.
No, it's actually something I think that will help other up and coming Christian filmmakers.
Mm. You see a few million as a number and you go, that's huge. I certainly did. I was like, that's enormous.
Yeah.
But then you actually equate it to, if you were to run a company with 100 people and pay the building fees, at a high level, you're like, yeah, you're running. That is what you're doing. You're like, oh yeah, of course. But you learn. So I've learned.
So just from a plugged in perspective, we tend to focus on the content of stories. Anything that might throw a wrench in the gears for parents,
Mm.
like, because this story, it's in the Bible, but it might be intense.
Yeah, I think there's with Ananias and Sapphira, especially because we see Sapphira die,
Mhm,
and that was the idea of the ruach, the spirit, the
mhm.
life force, just literally being taken back,
Yeah.
and that's kind of that's how we decided to do it. And yeah, the thing is, there's some lot of the times, especially with the stories we tackle in season one, there's a lot more. We have a theological advisor called Hugh Osgood, and he's led national church at national level and small
Yeah.
churches, and he said he's never had so many people, this is for the actors, come up to him and ask how this moment might have made someone feel. This is from a pastor. People ask why or what, but not how. And it's like it was really intriguing. And we read the Bible often with hindsight. We know the ends, we know the victory. But if you actually read it verse by verse, not knowing the next one, it's an incredibly dramatic, scary place to be. And I think there's just living in that moment is often drama enough. We don't need to. I mean, I don't know what season two is going to look like. Season two is going to deal with the persecution in a.
Mhm.
We want it to be in an. It's a strange word I feel like I'm using, but in an honoring way, like what persecution does look like in some places of the world now. We're very blessed where we are. Certainly for me and where you are based. There's a lot of freedom here. It's not real persecution like some of the other places. So
Yes,
yeah,
very
I
different.
I don't know what it's going to look like in season two. If we get there, but yeah, I'm not interested in gore. That's for sure. I think the last thing we want to see is a character that you've fallen in love with like that. Watch them.
Yeah.
Like it's enough knowing you're not going to see them again.
You showed the reactions of his friends, his family,
Exactly.
and again, just conveying that emotion. This will be my last question. We'll make it a little more fun. Favorite apostle and why?
I mean, he's my brother. Sorry, Kenneth Amole is my brother-in-law because I'm married to Faith.
Okay.
So, if I don't say Kenneth as John, I think I might be in trouble. But then again, James is also my brother-in-law because he's also a brother of Kenneth.
Yeah.
So again, so maybe don't say either of them. Make it better.
Okay, how about this? Favorite apostle who wasn't portrayed by a family member?
Nice, good. Thank you. That helps.
I got you covered, man.
Yeah, cheers. I really enjoyed being able to write Thomas's perspective of being called the doubter, and actually
Yeah.
sharing that from his point of view. I think a lot of people miss that, Jesus appeared to all the apostles, not Thomas, and didn't then appear to Thomas for a week. I think a lot of because it's been depicted in a lot of TV shows that it just happened straight away. And it didn't. It was a week. And can you imagine being one of the 12 at that time, 11, sure. Um, and waiting a week? Ugh, that talk about feeling inferior or left out. Like that's a whole new level. Um, so yeah, I'm quite fond of, at least in our season. Peter's the obvious choice, right? Because obviously it's Peter, but we're gonna try be a bit more. We'll try be a little different. No, I love what we did with Thomas in that, especially in episode 3, and I think Simon Z will probably shape up to be quite an interesting character in future seasons.
You guys chose a fantastic cast. So,
I mean, if we can count him, yeah, I don't know if he quite counts yet, but Barnabas, man, Barnabas is just love Barnabas. He
yeah.
makes me just lighter every single time I see him.
I think I read that isn't he portraying C.S. Lewis in another thing that you're working on?
Yeah, so we did. I'm doing Fellowship, the story of C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien about their friendship. It's a movie, but with Angel, you have to produce like a short torch, they call it,
Yeah.
like a proof of concept. So yeah, I met Peter Morton, who plays Barnabas, because I cast him as C.S. Lewis in our torch. So yeah, he did me a solid and was C.S. Lewis then, and I thought, well, you can be my Barnabas now.
Works out great when you can just have I mean, you said with Kenneth, you had him
Yeah,
from, the Parables.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with us.
Thank you.
To all of our Plugged In viewers, go to PluggedIn.com to read our review of Testament, and you can watch the whole series on Angel Studios.